Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to completely flip the script on how you look at a familiar furry friend. We tend to take the pets in our homes for granted, right? We just assume their entire existence revolves around those little plastic habitats we build for them. But the actual truth? The story of the hamster is this fascinating, wild blend of evolution, complex biological communication, and, believe it or not, cutting-edge neuroscience. So get ready to see the humble hamster in a completely new light.
Chances are you or someone you know grew up with one of these little guys. But I'm going to challenge everything you assume about the common pet sitting in a cage. We usually just view them as simple, domestic playthings. But when you trace their origins and behaviors, it reveals an animal perfectly engineered by nature. They navigate complex environments, establish intricate social hierarchies, and, as you'll see later on, they can even teach us a thing or two about our own human brains.
Sure, beneath that incredibly cute, fluffy, snack-munching exterior is, well, an absolute survivor. They have all these endearing behaviors, like spinning on wheels or stuffing those famous cheek pouches, which makes them perfect companions. But here's the thing. Every single one of those quirky traits was actually forged in the demanding, harsh landscapes of Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, just to ensure their survival in the wild. Let's fire through some of these biological superfacts real quick, because these definitely prove they aren't just simple toys. First off, they're crepuscular. That means they are most active during the twilight hours of dawn and dusk, not strictly nocturnal like a lot of people think. They are born completely blind, can't even open their eyes until they're about 2 weeks old. And their incisor teeth, they literally never stop growing. That's exactly why they have this massive biological drive to constantly chew on things. When it comes to reproduction, litters can have an absolutely astounding 24 babies at a single time. And if you think they're all tiny, no way. The European hamster variety can actually grow up to a massive 13 inches long. So why do we absolutely love hamsters, but, kind of freak out over mice or rats? It literally comes down to a few basic physical proportions. Despite all three being rodents, hamsters have been genetically gifted with short, stubby tails and smaller snouts. Mice and rats, on the other hand, have those noticeably long tails and elongated noses. It's this incredibly simple shift in proportions that diminishes that typical rodent-like appearance. It's just a fascinating quirk of human psychology that these specific physical traits make them appealing as household pets rather than being viewed as pests. Now, the origin story here is basically a mini historical thriller, taking them from total obscurity to a global phenomenon. Long before they were in pet shops, there were 26 species running wild. The first formal mention wasn't until 1797, when a physician named Alexander Russell discovered them in the wild. Decades later, they got the official name, golden hamster. But the real turning point? That was 1930. From there, they rapidly became domesticated pets across Europe in the 40s, and by the 1970s, the idea had spread like wildfire, and they exploded into American homes. Actually, let's zoom in on that 1930 turning point, because it is absolutely wild. The modern Syrian pet, which is the most common pet hamster today, was literally unearthed during an expedition. Zoologist Israel Aharoni was specifically looking for golden hamsters. His team went to Aleppo, Syria, and started digging up a local wheat field. Deep in the soil, they managed to capture a single mother golden hamster and her 11 pups. They transferred them to a university in Jerusalem, they successfully reproduced, and, get this, almost the entire modern pet population traces its roots back to that one single family pulled from a Syrian wheat field. To survive in those harsh, wild environments, hamsters actually developed this hidden, completely invisible world. Since they don't rely much on vocalizations, they have this fascinating array of specialized scent glands all over their bodies. As they walk through their environment, could be a wild field, could be a plastic tube in your bedroom, they sequentially use these glands to leave an invisible trail. First, cheek glands rub a waxy substance on surfaces to mark the path. Then, flank glands on their sides brush against the walls. Finally, genital glands are used to mark rigid territory boundaries and signal reproductive readiness. And what they are leaving behind is pheromones. These chemical substances act as a highly sophisticated secret language. By following their own scent trail, a hamster can expertly navigate its environment in the pitch dark. But at the same time, it's broadcasting a ton of vital information to other hamsters nearby. This is how they establish dominance and personal territory without ever having to make a single sound. It is a brilliant, intricate communication system happening right under our noses, but entirely invisible to us. Right, so that brings us to the biggest mystery of all. This is a question that shifts our explainer from history and biology straight into hardcore neuroscience. Why the wheel? We've all seen it, right? the hamster running endlessly in its cage. For decades, both the scientific community and everyday pet owners assumed this was just a neurotic artifact of captivity. We thought, well, they're locked in a small space, they're bored out of their minds, and they're just burning off nervous energy. But is that actually true? Well, to answer that, we've got to talk about a truly breakthrough 2014 study by researcher Johanna Meyer. She and her team did something delightfully simple, but honestly revolutionary. They took standard exercise wheels and placed them out in natural wild environments. We're talking a green urban area and a remote dune site that was completely closed off to the public. They set up some cameras, stepped back, and literally monitored these wheels for over 3 years just to see what wild animals would do when they stumbled across them. The results? Absolutely staggering, with absolutely zero training, and crucially, no food reward or bait left on the wheel. Wild mice found the equipment, hopped on, and ran continuously for up to 18 minutes at a stretch. And it wasn't just mice, even though they did the vast majority of the running. Shrews, frogs, and even slugs, literally slugs, actively climbed onto the wheels to make them move. This completely shattered the old idea that wheel running is just some neurotic behavior caused by living in a cage. So this brings us to Dr. Theodore Garland Jr., who has spent 30 years researching this exact behavior. Rodents naturally have the aerobic capacity to cover huge distances. I mean, a chipmunk can run 6 miles a day. But what's the actual drive? Dr. Garland notes that dopamine is the likely culprit here. It's the brain's reward system in action. He suggests this urge to burn energy in unprompted bursts is essentially the animal version of the F word, fun. He calls it nipnorting, doing acrobatics and burning energy simply because the neurochemical payoff feels incredible. Okay, but why does a running hamster matter to us? Well, this is where the science gets super impactful for human biology. Dr. Garland's research points to a critical developmental window. He found that mice who were given access to running wheels right after weaning, at just 3 weeks old, ran significantly more as adults than mice who were introduced to the wheels later in life. By engaging in this voluntary exercise early on, their brain's reward system was permanently tweaked. They were literally hardwired to crave and enjoy exercise for the rest of their lives. So I'm going to leave you with this final kind of provocative thought. If our own human circuitry works exactly the same way, if dopamine rewards us for movement, and the window to lock that habit in is during our youth, are we permanently robbing our children's developing brains of the joy of movement when we cut physical education and recess from schools? The hamster on the wheel isn't just an amusing pet. It might just be the ultimate mirror showing us how absolutely essential play, movement, and fun are to the fundamental wiring of our minds. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking questions about the world around you.